Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're looking at the Cooler Master MasterKeys Lite L combo. This is a gaming keyboard and mouse that comes in at currently $44.99 at the time of recording, which is ridiculous for what you get. Now you generally don't see gaming mouse and keyboard combos, but if you're on a budget this could be the one for you. Now considering the price point, we've actually got an illuminated RGB keyboard and also an illuminated mouse, which is really good to see and not something you'd expect at this price. So let's go over a few of the key features that you need to know. Now the mouse has got RGB lighting on 2 zones and that has a static and colour cycle effect. And then the keyboard you've got 6 zones with RGB lighting. Now one thing I really like is you don't need any extra software to control the lighting. You can do it all by the keys, which I think is really good. And you can't expect massive customization as well for this price point either. So that's something you do need to consider. But it does make it a lot less hassle when you want to change it. Now budget keyboards, you generally see them using membrane keys, but these use their own custom switch which they call the mem-chanical. This offers a mechanical feel, more on that of course further in the video. Up to 26 key anti-ghosting, on the fly control for the repeat rate and also the lighting modes as I've mentioned. It's also water splash resistant as well, should you happen to spill a drink on it. Should you want to, you can also replace the keycaps with some custom ones. It does take the standard Cherry MX keycaps. So the key points for the mouse. It's using an infrared Avago 3050 sensor. On-1 switches for the left and right keys that have up to a 10 million click lifespan. The 2-zone lighting as I've mentioned. You've got 2 thumb buttons which work for gaming, or you can use them obviously as forward or back on your browser. Then you've got on-the-fly commands to change the DPI settings, 500, 1000, 2000 and 3500. And then also shortcuts to change the colour effects as well. Right, let's get on with it. So included in the box you've just got an instruction manual. There's no extras included this time, but this has got all the information you need to know about setting up your repeat rates and your RGB lighting on both the keyboard and the mouse. It is a bit tricky to get used to, but we'll of course cover that later. Okay, so let's first take a look at the mouse that's included. Coming out of the box it did feel a little bit plasticky, but you do need to bear in mind this is £44 for a combo set of a mouse and keyboard, so you can't expect the world. It is slightly small, about the average size of a desktop mouse, like you'd see in an office, for example. Certainly smaller than my MX Master and the other Cooler Master mouse that I use, which is the Reaper. Being a user with bigger hands, I did take a little bit of time to adjust. Now the plasticky feel you do get used to as well. It was something that I noticed more out of the box and got used to as time progressed. But going around it, you got a nice simple Cooler Master logo on the rear. Then underneath we've got one of the RGB lighting zones. The left hand side has the 2 buttons for the forward and back, with also options during gameplay. The front we've got the scroll wheel, which does have a nice click as you run it through your finger. The scroll wheel actually lights up as another RGB zone. Then behind that we've got the quick DPI button, which also gives a colour effect to show that you've pressed it. As you can see, we've got a fixed USB cable for this, but as with most wired mice, this is generally what you see anyway. On the bottom we find the sensor and then some pads to help it slide along your desk. Nothing really special to see underneath, as with most mice. So taking a look at the cable, as it is a budget device, you're not going to expect the world or braided cables or anything like that. Just a simple cable, but you have got a good 2 meters to play with. Let's take a look at the USB illumination that the mouse offers. So currently it's going through the colour cycle, that's the default when you plug it in. Now what I really like, as I mentioned, there's no software required to do any of the illumination. It's all done on the mouse, which is quite handy. It does take a little bit of time to get used to begin with. So the first thing you're going to do is put your thumb onto the DPI button and hold it down. Then you can change the mode from the colour change to a static colour by pressing the scroll wheel button. Then you can use the back or the first button on the left of the mouse to then change the colour. Here you can see it in the dark, just going through the different colour switch. You can see it does come out of one part, but when you're not looking at the mouse directly, it does look a lot more evenly lit. Then pressing the DPI, you do get a different colour for each setting, so you can easily identify which one you're on. Now it may not be important to everyone, but here's how the mouse sounds. So you've had a look around the mouse and I'll give you my thoughts about it at the very end, but now let's take a look at the keyboard you get included. So as you can see, it's a full-size keyboard and it's very minimal as well. There's no unnecessary branding and there isn't even a Cooler Master logo printed on it, apart from on the actual keycaps that are etched. So they've gone for a very understated look, which I really do find appealing. Now on first glance it does look a lot more expensive than what it actually is, which I suppose is a plus, but yet retains some features that we see in the higher end, more expensive keyboards. Now underneath the keycaps you have got a white backplate as well, which means the light will reflect quite nicely. So the top right is where we'll find our caps lock, scroll lock and number lock indicators, as well as the game mode button, which basically blanks out the Windows key when you're in game, so it won't minimize your window. That's pretty much a standard nowadays on gaming keyboards, but it's still nice to see. So nice to see some media controls on there using the insert, home, page up, page down, delete and end buttons. Simply a case of pressing the function, which is down by the right control, then the button of your choice to control your media. Now the function key also offers functionality when using the F9 to F12. This offers a 1 to 8 times repeat rate, a Windows lock, and also the game mode, disabling that Windows key. So Cooler Master are using their own switch for this. It's called the mem-chanical, which is partly membrane, and that's got a bit of a mechanical styling in there as well. So first of all, you've got the dome foundation, which is at the bottom, then a transparent plunger, support housing, and then your keycaps, which can all be replaced with other Cherry MX keycaps, as I did mention before. So it is nice to have the ability to change them out should you so wish. Now they state this is going to have a 12 million click lifespan as well over the 6 you generally see with mechanical switches. Now for those of you that are interested in how it sounds, this is for you. Personally, I think it sounds pretty good. Now one thing that you do have to note about this keyboard is it uses 50 grams of activation force, unlike usual keys which are generally 40. This makes me feel that it's very similar to the Cherry MX Black. So it has quite a lot of force required at the very top, but after it just bottoms out. Obviously you're not going to get the kind of feel of the mechanical because it's a metal bottom, but you're going to have a soft rebound. But yeah, something I did notice, the initial actuation is very similar. So just like the mouse, this uses a plain unbraided cable, again 2 meters in length, and that is also wired and not removable. Another thing to note is you don't have any extras like USB hubs or audio interfaces for your headset, but personally that's something I never use anyway. So looking at the bottom of the keyboard, we've got 4 rubber feet to keep it on the desk when it's stationary. Now one thing I did notice is the rubber that's on the actual base of the keyboard is different to what's on the actual stands. So when the keyboard's flat on the desk, it has a lot more grip than when it's actually up on the 2 stands. So I would recommend to them they use the same grip all around just to make sure it stays put. So another feature we've got with the function button is the ability to change all our lighting on the fly without software, which I think is really quite good. So going from F1 to F7, we've got the quick color picker. Then we've got options to change to red, green and blue in 5 different levels as well. So should you want to get a color like purple, then you just have to match them correctly. Then you've got the mode button, which obviously changes through the different modes that are built in. F6 does the zones and direction, then F7 will adjust the speed. So the first one you actually see when you actually plug it in will be the color cycle. This will obviously go through the different colors available in a continuous loop. What I'm doing here is just adjusting the speed so you can see it does pick up to a fairly quick pace. At full setting I think it is rather distracting, so I'd go for a nice little slow, smooth transition. Then we've got options for the zones to light up individually. You can also change the adjustment or which way that goes, and then again you can adjust the speed. This effect here is kind of a zonal wave, again changing the speed and which way it goes. Then the adjustment also changes how wide that block is that goes through. Quick color change using the F1 key, then onto the full rainbow wave. Again you can change the speed of that. You can also reverse that if you so wish. That's where I spoke about it being a bit too intense on the full speed, so I would definitely recommend toning it down. So this bit is to show an example how the different colour can be changed using the 5 steps on each colour. So if you wanted to get a white for example, then you'd have to balance them all out equally. Then obviously turn down the red and the blue if you wanted to go with just green, so on and so forth for the different colours. I did find this a little bit tricky to get used to, but at the end of the day it's just like being back at school doing primary colours. Now if you want to turn the lighting off fully, you can do function and escape. Then if you want to reset the keyboard back to the standard settings, you press and hold function for 10 seconds. Now one thing I always want to touch on during RGB keyboard reviews is how it reproduces the white. As you can see, this is not color corrected and it's struggling a little bit. It is off teal, which is a shame, but again, going back to the price for this keyboard, you can't expect absolute miracles. But Cooler Master do other keyboards in the range that are purely white, and by God are they bright white as well. So should you want just a purely white keyboard, take a look at something else they do. Okay, so I've shown you pretty much around the entirety of the 2 products that are included. Now to give you my opinion. So first up, the keyboard. This is my favourite device of the 2. Taking it out of the box, it did feel a little bit plasticky, as did the mouse, but after using them for a few weeks, all worries about the feel soon went away. I do love the RGB lighting. The fact that you don't have to use any software is the big selling point for me. Anything you want to customize you can do really quickly and on the fly. Now some users may want a full suite where they can customize every different key to a different color, and for Cooler Master to go and make all that software for this price point just isn't justifiable, so that's something you wouldn't see. With the keys having a slightly higher actuation point is something I had to get used to, going from Cherry MX Brown keyboard to this one. But once that did, I had no problems during gameplay. One thing I did notice, where they have the membrane at the bottom of the switch, you do need to fully bottom them out to register. You can't just do a light tap like you can with the mechanical key. The lack of USB and headphone pass-through is a bit of a deal breaker for some. Personally, like I said, for me it makes no difference at all, so no problems there. And I really do like the fact you can change the keycaps out as well. It's another good thing. And this is £44 at the time of recording this, so that's ridiculously cheap, and you can actually customise it, which is something you generally don't see unless you pay a big premium. And then the mouse, that's one thing that did take me quite a bit of time to get used to, purely because I've got big hands and I'm used to bigger mice. This is more of a general desktop kind of size mouse, so it is on the smaller side for me. But you know, I stuck with it and I did get used to it after time. Like most things, you do adapt to it. I do like the DPI switch, that's pretty good. Depending on what game I play, I generally went from the second to third DPI settings, so it was nice to have those quickly available. One thing that might be better for some people is to have two switches to go up and down rather than cycling through, rather than having to go through the other three that they'll never use. The lighting on the mouse I do like. Now there is only the two modes, but there's not really much you can do with mice unless you have an option to fully customize it via software. I also do like the two side buttons, but being you haven't got any software for them, you can't remap them. Personally, when I'm on the desktop, I'd remap these to volume control, so I don't have to use the keyboard each time. So all things considered, for $44.99 in the UK, this is a great all-round package. Considering for an RGB keyboard you'd be looking at about £40 anyway. To add in a mouse as well, all for one price, is a really great option. And at this kind of price, this will make a perfect example for a gift, maybe for a birthday or even Christmas. Maybe someone that started to do gaming on their desktop computer with their families, for example, and you want to give them something a little bit better than just the mouse and keyboard that come with the PC, then this is a nice little upgrade. Now this could potentially be the best mouse and keyboard set you can buy at this price point. So if you do have any questions for this product, please do let me know down in the comments box below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. If you want to get yourself one of these awesome combos, I will put the link in the description box below. If you enjoyed this video and haven't already, please consider subscribing. Big thank you to Cooler Master for sending this out for me to review. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.